Hello and welcome to the Godot community. My name is Sahira Dean. I am the virtual PLC lead for high school 2D art. In this webinar, I wanted to share a sample lesson of where I differentiated some things in my classroom with my AP students. So I feel that playtime, quote unquote, playtime in the art classroom is really important. And of course, it's an organized play where, I allow students access to different materials, and they're experimenting, seeing what they can do with the different materials or media. So I call it playtime just to kind of take off a little bit of the edge and add a little bit of encouragement for them to play. But essentially it's an experimentation day. So this particular day, they were experimenting with different inks. So I had some India ink, I had some watercolor ink, I had some acrylic based ink. Some of the ink I put into like a bubble solution. Um, I put some pine needles there so that they could actually make their own brushes. There were some sticks. I had some students go out and actually retrieve some things that they wanted to experiment more with the ink. There was water, of course, they had access to make washes. There was an alcohol spray. There was salt there. So anything you can kind of imagine. Oh, there was also some straws so they could actually blow the ink in different directions. There's always a hair dryer in the room. Oil pastels were also available, and things like that. So anything you can imagine that they can experiment with India inks and liquid based materials was provided. So I did a demo on how to kind of use some of the materials, and of course some of them actually extended their research and did some research online with some different YouTube videos of things that they wanted to also experiment with. So it was a great day for them to just experiment and play, just to see what they could achieve with the media that was provided. So on the table that's right at the bottom of the screen, that's where all the materials, just kind of like the home base, where all the materials were that they could kind of freely grab. And then the two papers that are there were actually my particular demos that I did with them that day in class. So here you can see students experimenting with the ink. Rubber cement was also used, I forgot to mention that, as a form of masking. So if you put the rubber cement down, allow it to dry, you can put the ink over it, let the ink dry, rub the ink off, and of course the ink won't be where the rubber cement was. So you can also do that with like white oil pastel. Of course, you can't necessarily rub it up, but it will prevent ink from penetrating that area. And then like a masking solution, you can do the same thing with that. So in this particular area right here, the student applied some ink, and then she used some water soluble, the watercolor color pencils, along with sandpaper, and she grated that into the wet ink. And so it dissolved or penetrated into the wet ink and left that really cool kind of texture area in the ink. So they were just kind of experimenting just to see what they could do with the medium. There's a couple more examples of what students were doing, and again, you can kind of see like they just kind of took it and ran with it, which made me very excited to see them just really playing and engaging with the medium. And so I had some of the ink-based pens. You can see the student here using the pine needles to apply the ink as well. And then just more student examples of what they were doing or what they were able to achieve that day. So this was day one, which was the demo and the play with the ink and the water-based media. So you can see more examples of students kind of playing with the different media. Here you can see a student actually took the blow dryer out. and she's actually preparing her final example. So she's into day two. So the first day was just them experimenting, playing with on some scrap paper, and then they kind of went home, kind of came up with some ideas, and the next day they came in and started on their final compositions. So here are some of the final examples that they did. So you can see the student here used the rubber cement and masked off that area. He extended the rubber cement into some of these areas, but it was a process of using the blow dryer, letting it dry, applying more media on top, and just kind of working with what he was able to kind of achieve. And I told them there wasn't necessarily a right or wrong way, or there definitely wasn't a wrong way to do this play type of day, because what my goal for them was to experiment and hopefully take some of that experimentation knowledge into some of their sustained investigations, of course, for their AP, uh, portfolio. So I feel that that was definitely achieved. But the differentiation is definitely seen in just the choice of material, the choice of application, choice of composition, because the lesson was formulated that way. So I felt that definitely check mark that was achieved because, or it was, I definitely felt that this was a successful lesson because, again, my goal was for them to just experiment and just kind of play and hopefully come up with something that they were proud of at the end of the project. All right, here's some more examples of their final project. And again, you can see that, all the final compositions look totally different. You can definitely tell that, they all used ink or some kind of water soluble medium, but they definitely had a lot of choice in terms of what they did with the knowledge gained. So also, just the ability to hopefully take some of their knowledge gain again into some of their investigation projects. All right, so here is one more example. In the rings, I wanted to note that this is actually from the bubble right here. And then what they did was took the bottom of the rubber cement bottle and, formed those rings. So they dipped it in the rubber cement, or they dipped the rubber cement bottle into the ink, and then they kind of stamped it onto their papers to come up with that result. But you can see layers of oil pastel in here. There's layers of watercolor in here. There's some areas where they went in either with a blow dryer or a straw to kind of do some controlled movement of the ink, right? So a lot of experimentation going on with this particular project. So that concludes our webinar. I would like you to go to the Godot community. Join me on the high school 2D art community page and join in the discussion. Please do share some lessons that you've been successful with that, have some evidence of differentiation, how you kind of use it to your advantage as a teacher and getting to know your students in the classroom. But definitely take part in the discussion. Definitely take part in the discussion on our community. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Bye.